let's talk about Disney's Cruella. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Diz TV. If this is your first time here, welcome home. We're so glad to have you. And as you can see, we're in the new set. Finally, I am so excited to reveal it to you guys. But don't worry, a room tour is coming very, very shortly, within like the next week or two. But anyway, let's dive into Disney's Cruella. Anyway, let's talk about some of the basics about how I review these movies. First things first, I rate them out of 10. So 10 being the best, 1 being the worst. I also have a fun factor. Now the fun factor is if it has rewatchability, if it's a fun, enjoyable movie. But anyway, besides that, let's dive into this movie because it is definitely interesting. First, for a quick summary, this movie is pretty good. It's a pretty good movie, that's all I can say. It's a very interesting origin story. It reminded me a lot of Maleficent. Granted, it is talking about the villain side of the story here versus, like, you know, I don't know, the live action 101 Dalmatians that came out like back in the mid to late 90s, somewhere around there. It's a good origin story, not only into the character Cruella de Vil, but also into the 101 Dalmatians sort of universe that they have going on here, the whole story that they have. This movie talks about how Cruella met Horace and Jasper, how Cruella became Cruella, why she doesn't like Dalmatians, and things of that sort. We also get a glimpse of the single lives of Anita and Roger. As good as this movie is, it does have some flaws. For instance, the plot of the story is kind of basic, which is handy for those of us who don't want something super complex. You get something very, very simple here. However, the biggest thing with this movie is the costumes. And oh my gosh, if this movie does not win the Oscar for Best Costuming next year, what is costuming? Like, seriously, every single piece is amazing. It's so well put together. I love all the costume pieces. I'm not a huge fashion guy, but man, it looks astounding. It looks absolutely amazing. Like, seriously, I can't say it enough. It does look incredible. Another highlight of the movie is the songs. There's a lot of songs that are put into this movie. Now, not necessarily of the musical variety, you know, like a Lion King or a Mary Poppins or a, you know, Beauty and the Beast, but this does have a lot of music from different genres to really not only push the story forward, but also to highlight different story moments. For instance, they used a cover of Come Together, which is originally a Beatles song, for, you know, the coming together of all of Cruella's people before, like, the big event, the big showdown of sorts. Let's move on to our two leading ladies, ironically both named Emma. Emma Stone, holy cow. I'll be honest, when I first heard that she was casted as Cruella, I was a bit concerned because all I've seen her in is someone who's very shy, reserved sort of character-ish. And she comes across that way to me. But she nailed this role. Not only the role of Estella, who is that more quiet, reserved, and kind of quirky character, but also handled Cruella with such power and such, like, wickedness and just ego that really drove her character. And man, it was done really, really well. The balance of both. I have no other words. It was done very, very well. She surprised me in a very good way. Emma Thompson is pretty much great in every Disney role you give her, and this one is no exception. She is a very good villain, because even the villains have villains, and she is very unlikable And that is what makes her character so appealing and so well done. It's definitely a contrast to her being Mrs. Potts or P.L. Travers, so that's for sure. The rest of the cast is really, really good. Boris and Jasper, I think, are the two highlights for sure, as they just add on to the characters that we see in the animated movie, and they do look like the characters from the animated. Including in this cast of characters are the dogs, and there's a lot of dogs in this movie. Not as many as 101. There is, of course, Buddy, who is Cruella's dog that she's had since he was a little kid. There is Winky, I believe is what his name is. And Winky's a very interesting dog. It's kind of like a Chihuahua, which is also in there. And then, of course, there is the 3 Dalmatians that the Baroness has. And those are also cool, too. One thing I will say is, like, it's cool when the dogs are actually there, like, when it's actually the dogs. There is one moment in it where I'm like, yeah, this is not real. Where one of the Dalmatians comes up and just kind of lays and, like, does this little thing here. It was not great CG. Probably the biggest thing that stood out to me was some of the changes they made in really giving Cruella her own origin story. While yes, all the beats pretty much tie back into the 101 Dalmatians, no matter which one you're watching, whether it is the animated version or even the live action version, they are done very, very well. And not just that, but also fleshing out Cruella so we understand her a little better. She's not necessarily after killing puppies in this one, but she is not a huge fan of Dalmatians, and we know the reason why. Overall, this movie reminded me a lot of Maleficent, but it does have its own unique twist and flavor to it to make it something unique in the Disney library. Overall, out of 10, I give this movie a 7.5. It is enjoyable, so it does have a medium fun factor. Out of that 5, I'd give it about a 3. This movie is fun. It's good. I did have a enjoyable time watching it. Now, the reason why it may be a little lower versus to some of you all, I'm not the biggest guy when it comes to fashion stuff, but at the same time, it was an enjoyable film. I still loved all the character moments, and it really did flesh out Cruella de Vil. Overall, I did enjoy the film. Let me know in the comments down below, what did you think of Disney's Cruella? I'd love to hear about it. And with that, I hope you did enjoy the video. If you did, please give it a big thumbs up. I greatly appreciate it. If you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe down below and hit the bell to be notified for more videos on Disney, Pixar, Marvel, Star Wars, the parks, so much more. I'll see you all in the next video. Have a magical day, darling. Goodbye.